we're really excited for them to help and be here. This is the longest walk they're going to have of the night, and it's a walk we know very well. So give it up for Nick Castle and James Jude Courtney.
Make their long walk up here, we're going to go over a couple of things.
Look at how menacing they are.
Look at that. So at the end of our Q&A, we are going to give away randomly 3 posters that are signed by both Nick and James, and you will be able to come take a photo with them at the end. And one other interesting, nerdy thing that I'm going to share with you, that was the first time 1978 has played on a laser projector. So we experienced something very cool that our friends at Hollywood put together for us last week and allowed us to play it here on a laser projector. So that was really cool for us as well. Nick, James, welcome.
Welcome.
Great to be here. Hey guys, how's it going?
Thanks to Anthony and Imagine for letting us do this here and doing it in 3 different theaters. This is the biggest, and the screen is unbelievable. We have Halloween 2018 coming up. But we'll start with, let's start first with Nick Castle. So Nick, I mean, we talked to you about this a couple times on the radio today, on TV, but the story of how you got involved in the very first Halloween movie really starts with the friendship with, the legend John Carpenter.
Yeah, the legend. Yeah, he's just my friend.
Right,
Sorry.
right.
When you have a friend that becomes a legend, he's still just John Carpenter, your friend. So we went to film school together at the University of Southern California, a really well-accredited film school back in the day. When you went there, you didn't know if you were going to become a filmmaker. You just knew you were going to learn some stuff. But right before we came in, a person named George Lucas graduated, and he started, he did a few movies. So you started to feel, maybe I can make a career out of this. In any case, John and I did movies in film school together. We actually, in our senior year together, worked on a Academy Award-winning short. So we had, everything was downhill from that, because none of us have made an Academy Award-winning movie since. But John was the first one out of the gate. He did a picture called Dark Star. If you haven't seen that, you gotta see it. He did Assault on Precinct 13, which is another great one. And then he had a producer come to him and said, I want to do a movie about a killer that kills babysitters. It was going to be called The Babysitter Murders. And then in a couple of weeks, the same producer came in and says, let's make it on Halloween, and we'll call it Halloween. And Just said, fine. And he wrote the script with Deborah Hill, his partner in crime and love at the time. And in a week had a screenplay, and they went right into production very quickly after that. I realized John was doing a movie. I, of course, from film school, wanted to be a director and writer myself, so they were filming right near my house. I went down and saw John as they were working on the sets at the locations, and I went, John, I'm gonna hang out. I'm gonna hang out and watch you do this thing, because it'll dispel all of the problems that I feel like, fears of doing my first movie. He went, okay, Nick, but okay, you're gonna have to do something then. Here, put on this mask and walk around. And I went, wow, $25 a day I got. That was big money back then. So that's how I got involved. John directed this, wrote it, did the music, and kind of the rest is history. It just flew into this amazing movie that within 6 months, I think, after the film was released, was the top grossing independent movie of all time. So I gotta hand it to my buddy. That's how I got involved, and that's how John started the picture, so that gives you a little bit of a feel.
So another great fact for Imagine, and we're honored. This is the first time you two are together in the state of Michigan. Thank you.
Yeah. It took these two Which, by the way, y'all, is fast becoming my favorite city in America. And after last season, I am a Detroit Lions fan.
You stole Jared Goff from us in Los Angeles. I'm really upset about
Be
that.
careful.
Okay,
We
sorry.
don't want them rusting out. So, how did you two meet? How did the relationship develop? How did that come about?
So, a lot of people ask, well, so did Nick Castle coach you on how to play the shape? Nick Castle and I have never talked about this character, ever, not once. He came in about 3 weeks in to shooting. The moment Nick and I met, we're like brothers from another mother. I mean, we're just fast friends, and we've been very good friends ever since. I knew Nick's work as a filmmaker. Tap, by the way, is my favorite film of Nick Castle, and it's an homage to his father, who was a choreographer, choreographed Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly and all these amazing people. So, and that film was really touching and powerful and beautiful. And so meeting Nick was really special. And but we never ever have talked about the franchise or the character. That's what, we're friends, so we just get to talk about all those kinds of other cool stuff. I mean, I've been blessed. When I got to Los Angeles in 1981, it was only a few years, and I got to start. I got to work. I got to, jump out in front of a camera and made lots and lots of movies and lots that you'll never see because they're foreign language. They're Spanish language films, and I used an alias. I'm probably going to get fined for this from the Screen Actors Guild, but
Were you Juan or
Jaimito?
as a Spanish?
Oh no, I'm not going to tell you who I was, man. But at that point in the game, like 2016, 2017, 2017, I moved back to South Carolina, where my family's from, or where we lived. I was born in Cleveland, moved out of South Carolina when I was 15. So, but my brothers and I have 6 brothers. They're all athletes. I come from a really wonderfully close family. My nieces and nephews are state and national champion athletes, wrestling, soccer, rugby, and I missed so much. And committing your life to movie making it's hard work, but more than that, it's sacrifice. Because I can't tell you how many I missed all of my grandparents' funerals because I was making movies. You can't leave. You can't leave in the middle of a movie. And so weddings, funerals, birthdays, important events, I missed those because, so I was like, it's time to go back home and be with my family. So I moved back. I bought a little place in South Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, and I gutted it, and I built it up myself with the help of a retired contractor, and I was just focused on writing and directing and producing, and I was like, okay, if someone calls me, I'll work. I worked on a couple of commercials, and then I got the call, and it was Ron Hutchinson who stunt coordinated the Rob Zombie films, and he said, look, I'm making another Halloween. I said, yeah, I know they're shooting in South Carolina. It's really cool. And he goes, well, I read the script, and I called David Gordon Green and Malika Cod and said, look, this script is different than any other Halloween film. The person who plays Michael Myers has to have really deep acting chops and has to be a very good stuntman. And David's like, right, okay, he has to be 6'3", 200 pounds, and he's got to be in his 60s. Who do you know? And Ron, there's only one, right? And so, and it was my friends Jennifer and Christopher Nielsen that actually brought my name up to Ron, even though I knew him for 30 some odd years. So I went down, they called me, and I went down to Charleston to be put on tape in front of the casting director, talking about acting and training and stunts and weapons and all the fun things. After they put me on tape, I walked out to the parking lot and got in my pickup truck, because if any of y'all have been down south, a man's got to have a pickup truck. Got to have a pickup truck. You ain't a man unless you got one, Bo. And so I get my truck, and I'm not even out of the parking lot. I get a call from Blumhouse, and they're like, "Are you available?" "Yeah, I'm available." "Cool." Kiss of death in the work in our business. Not even to the freeway yet. A couple miles down the road, they call me back and say, "Can you come back and meet David?" And so I went back, met David, and the rest is history.
I know he has a different version of what occurred, so Nick, you want to start?
Yeah, so David Gordon Green, the director of the new movies, the three, I think, were very well done sequels, asked me to do a cameo in these movies. The first time I was, I don't know if you're going to see it, of course, but how many people have already seen 2018? Most of you, yeah. Okay, so you know the scene where Jamie first sees the shape after he gets out of his prison thing, and looks up and shoots at him, and it goes through the mirror. Okay, so that was my scene where I'm up there and I'm doing the little head tilt and everything like that, and she shoots me. The shot goes towards me, and then
okay. Let me preface this by saying Nick and I were hoping that we would get to inhabit the same scene, because this was truly the passing of the torch. This was the passing of, sometimes we refer to ourselves as the Alpha and the Omega. Like, for Nick to pass that torch to me was a big deal for us. And so in that scene, he's up in the window, it's a long shot, and part of that is, the mask is formed exactly to my face. So when you put on the mask on anybody else, it morphs into a different shape. It doesn't look the exact same, but in a long shot,
shape, get it?
Right? And this speaks to the value of Nick Castle and the absence of value to James Jude Courtney, right? They shoot Nick on a long shot up in the window, but when the mirror is shot, when the mirror breaks, it's me. And the reason why is because there's a man with a weapon that shoots a projectile into the mirror exactly 2 feet behind my head and 6 inches over. They were not going to put a bullet 6 inches away from Nick's head, but guess who they didn't give him? Me. But we got to pass the baton.
That's great. I love that story. So just raise your hand.
To the original mask. He said it doesn't exist, and he kept it. He walked home with it. When he found out part 2 was being made, he gave it back to him and never saw it again. Now, Mr. Courtney, can you let us know if you took your mask home with you?
I think you need to hear the story about the first mask first.
The first mask, there were 3 of them, first of all, and there's some photos of me and John Carpenter and Tommy Lee Wallace, who created the mask, in the at a party at the end of the movie, the rap party, where we're all singing and doing our routine. But by the time, so I kept one of them, and by the time the Halloween 2 started, Deborah Hill, the producer and co-writer of Halloween, great woman, by the way, who died much too early and would have loved to be part of this world, asked me, he said, "Nick, you still have the mask, right?" And I went, "Yes." So can I borrow it? Borrow it, she asked. Borrow it, she asked. And I said, "Okay, yeah, here it is." And she took it, and I never got it back. So that was the only mask that I know of that existed in the form that they could use. I don't know what happened to the other 2. And I think by the new Michael Myers, Dick Warlock, who worked in Halloween 2. And Dick may be sitting on it to this day. So that's what happened with the mask.
So in 2018, in our business, especially because these masks are so valuable, when we do contracts, we do riders, and the riders stipulate everything. What kind of car they give you, if you have a car and driver, what kind of accommodations you have. I mean, everything is laid out in contract. If it's not on paper, you don't get it. So we both had in our riders that we had hero masks, and a hero mask is a screen used mask. And there's a primary hero mask, which is the one that's used daily. Then there's a stunt mask, and there's a fire mask, and so there are like in each Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends. There's basically 4 masks. So from 2018, Nick has the hero mask that I wore every day, but he also wore, because it was the mask that he wore in the window. It was important for Nick to have that mask, and especially because Nick didn't have the original mask that he should have had from Halloween in '78. And then in Halloween Kills, I have the everyday hero mask, and Halloween Ends, I have the everyday hero mask. But all of them are screen used. Nick also has, from Kills and Ends, screen used masks, and they're incredibly valuable. So I imagine someday if I have great grandkids, they'll sell them for some ridiculous amount of money, and I'll come back and haunt them for the rest of their freaking lives.
All right, Jay, we'll be.
I mean, I really live for the challenge of pushing my mentality, my physicality to the very edge. I'm really kind of stupid that way. Like, Sarah tries to make me wear a helmet when I ride my motorcycle. I ain't gonna do it, you know? Like, I mean, for some reason, I love going to the edge. So all the physicality of, and you know, so I had bruised ribs and concussion and all this fun stuff from doing these movies. But the one thing that was the toughest was when Jamie shot me in 2018, it was one take. And so I rehearsed exactly where I was gonna walk, when she was going to shoot. We had rehearsed. I rehearsed the spin, drop out of frame, pop up out of frame. So it was a simple squat. I train my body every day. I know exactly how far to go. I know how to control it. But the moment got me. And so when I spun harder than I intended to. And the battery pack for the squib hits, so the squibs on the front and the back that explode with the blood coming out, the battery pack was on my left butt cheek. And so instead of squatting down about 6 inches above the sidewalk like I intended to do, I slammed into the concrete, and my sit bone and my butt cheek just kind of got caught in between it. It was excruciating, but I had to finish the take, so I just mustered whatever I could, and I finished the take. Thank God we didn't have to do the second one. The next morning I woke up, and my butt hurt so freaking bad. And it was so painful that I had to go before work every day, whether we shot in the morning or at night. I had to go to a chiropractor and get laser treatments, and then I went to an acupuncturist who did needles all the way around my left butt cheek. My left butt cheek, the chiropractor measured it. It was 1 inch higher than my right butt cheek. It was a hematoma, so it took a week for the bruising to come out. So I had one black butt cheek and one white butt cheek. And so I feel like, you know, I earned that shot, y'all.
This is the glamour of motion picture.
Y'all, it's not glamorous. I'm telling you.
Who's next?
It might not be a serious question, but I was always curious to know what was the delay after the scene when Lori runs back to the house to get inside the house and she goes to the next door neighbor and Michael Myers doesn't come after her? There was like a pause of her knocking on the door and he was just still in the back of the house, I'm assuming. Then when she knocks on the door, they turn the lights off and she runs across the street, and then that's when he comes. And I was always curious what the pause was. And I'm not sure if you can answer that question.
Before Nick tells you, Nick told me that he was reading a Playboy. That's
That's a good answer.
I'm interpreting your question, but I think it probably, the answer to that is, in the editing process, they thought that adding a pause would add more anxiety. So that's probably what they do. If you felt like it was a cheat, that's a possibility too. But you know, filmmakers, when they get into the editing room, they try to manipulate the shots to obviously to their advantage for more anxiety, for more fear, etc., like that. So I would imagine that's the answer to your question.
Are you satisfied?
What was your expectations for the movie? And then did it do your expectations? Like, did it go over your expectations with how many people watched it? Yeah, pretty much.
You're talking about the old one, the 78
I'm
one
talking
you just saw.
about both.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what my expectations after I did the work in.
It's hot.
hard to breathe in and hot, and yes, it's both. It's very difficult to breathe in because you've got no oxygen in there, and it's hot as yeah, man, it's, yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, I had a totally different experience, and maybe it was because of the shape of the mask. The shape of the mask. That's.
Yup.
But I felt it was kind of loose, the one that I had. I mean, it wasn't molded to my face at all. It was molded by the production designer that used as you know, what's his name?
William
Bill-
Shatner.
Shatner.
William Shatner.
Yeah, William Shatner mask. And he bought that off the shelf. And it was everything that Jim did was created from whole cloth. This one was something off the shelf, just put it on. It felt a little loose. I never felt a feeling of claustrophobia in that particular thing.
So I have to tell you though, for me, the discomfort of the mask is part of the process. So all the discomfort, all the pain, the bruised ribs and all the things, it's all a part of, making that character real, because you can't lie to an audience. You cannot lie to an audience. So what we're doing when we do what we do is real inside of our body. If you did brain scans, if you did hormone tests, if you look at pulse rates and all these things, and what's happening to our bodies when we're playing these characters is very, very real. Very real. So you just add that to the mix, and then ideally, hopefully, it translates into something that you guys can appreciate.
There's a supernatural being or just a human with like very much capabilities of surviving anything?
I think from what I understand that John's intention is that he's a human being, but there's a human being plus, maybe. He never wanted it to be a supernatural character that could not be hurt, because that would take away from the potential danger of the character. Or, if he can't get hurt, then you're fucked. He's obviously hurt during the course of the thing. He obviously keeps going. I think it was more kind of a symbolic gesture towards evil, that evil will always exist, and that was what the ending of the original one pretended, and why probably John thought this would be a one-off. He really didn't think there was going to be more than just this one. He thought the reason I had him leave at the end, that he's not there anymore, is that evil never dies, and that as much as you shoot evil, much as you do whatever, evil is a part of your life, and you're going to have to fucking deal with it. So it was almost philosophical, in the way he dealt with it. And so to answer your question, I think it's left up to the imagination of the viewer.
And I have to say, so perspectives vary, right? David Gordon Green will tell you there's nothing metaphysical, there's nothing supernatural about this character. That's not what he wrote, and that's not what he intended. Myself, having played the character, I'll tell you that there is something profoundly supernatural about the character, because I lived it. I inhabited that character. But I would submit that human beings are capable of far, far greater and more powerful things than we can possibly imagine. We use, 12% of our brains? What if we used 50% of our brains? What if we used 80% of our brains? How connected would we be to the cosmos, to the universe? What amazing miracles could we regenerate our bodies? So for me, it was, but the important thing as an actor is to play the truth, whatever that truth is. So my truth is a profoundly supernatural being, beyond three-dimensional reality. I consider this a 5D reality, a 5-dimensional reality where there is no right or wrong or black or white or evil or good. It just is. You don't judge a cat for killing a frickin' mouse, right? Why were you judging me for killing people, for Christ's sake?
Get away from me.
My daughter, what's up, man? Right over here. Here's my daughter, big fans of the movie. One's a question, one's a statement. How do you guys feel knowing that your character transcends, and there's people all across the world that has Michael Myers the Shape tattooed to them? How do you feel about that? And Nick, for you, Jared Goff was good enough for Detroit. Let's go Lions, baby.
Yeah, he's someone that he's a keeper. Let's put it that way. He's a keeper. As far as the connection with fans and how deep they go, I'm talking deep, like they're skin deep. You got it. Okay. You know, it's amazing to me how much the character is loved, and people want to make it not just a part of their life, but part of their skin, like you, sir. But you know, and I know James and I have had this experience where not only the character, but even our identities are asked to be signed on people's skin, and then they will tattoo our signature on that. So I always make sure that people understand that what they're doing. I will double check that this is a permanent thing that you're going to do before we do it. But it does show the passion that folks have for this, and I think we are just thrilled that people have taken this to heart, and of course we enjoy every moment of it, and we love the fact that just people have fun with this thing, you know. So I guess that's the answer.
I agree with everything Nick said, except that I think everybody who ever puts a Michael Myers tattoo on his body should be killed. just saying.
What was the funniest and easiest shot in the movie?
What was it? Say that again, hon.
What was the funniest and easiest shot?
Funniest and easiest shot. Dude, you would ask a difficult question. You must be really smart. Okay, you're clearly smarter than I am. All right. Funniest and easiest. Wow. Honestly, there wasn't much that was easy in any one of those movies. It's so physically demanding, and you have to remember, like, when we're doing what we're doing as an actor and as a stuntman, we have marks to hit, you have light to catch, you know, I need to know what lens the cameraman is using, so I know where my framing is. So there's so many components that go on while you're shooting a film that it's not that easy. Oh well, you know, we were shooting the heat, but you know, it's gonna be hot anyhow wearing that kind of costume. Nah, it's only 100. Yeah, you know, hey, 100 degree humidity, you know. 100% humidity. Now, but the thing is, I think the funniest stuff happened in rehearsals. So when you're rehearsing things, it's really like that's when the humor can come out, because you're just being a human being, doing what you're doing, sort of marking and blocking and preparing. When you're in the moment and shooting, ain't nothing funny about it, man. That's business. I mean, that's go time. I do have to say this: when there was part of the ending for Halloween 2018, when Jamie and I were doing a fight scene, and it didn't make it to the final cut. We changed the ending. You know, being an actor and a stuntman, stunts is all about precision. All about precision, because you just don't want to hurt people or get hurt. So, and the kiss of death is doing a very exacting scene with an actor if you have stunt experience. And so there was a scene where her rifle runs out of bullets, so she switches around and uses it like a baseball bat. And I'm holding a knife, like down, holding my, you know, out and down, and she's supposed to swing and hit the knife and knock the knife out of my hand. And I'm like, oh God, this is an actor with a freaking baseball bat in their hand. Oh, this is what I need. This is a broken hand. And 30 takes, she knocked that blade out of my hand and never once hurt me. So, you know, that, and although it wasn't funny, dude, it was cool.
Were you actually in the fire for Halloween Kills in the opening scene for Halloween
Dude,
Kills?
let me tell you.
That's a great question.
It's a great question. So actually, the fire stuff was the end of Halloween 2018, and then the beginning of Halloween Kills, right? Yes. And so the end of 18, I'm in the building. The old stunt coordinator, Ron Hutchinson, didn't come back. There was a new stunt coordinator. He didn't know me. He didn't know anything about me. And he was like, I'm not putting, an actor in that kind of fire. I'm gonna have you stunt double. And I was like, no, dog, this is my film. I'm going to the fire. And Chris Nelson was like, nope, nobody puts that mask on but Jim. And so we got that cleared. I was wearing 2 Nomex suits soaked in fire retardant gel. Fire retardant over my costume, over the mask. When you're sitting in front of a campfire and your jeans get really hot and you gotta move. That's how hot it was. The moment the explosion happened, that's how hot it was my entire body. And then when in a fire gag like that, you're waiting for a bite. The fire will bite you. And so one time, and we did 2 takes, I got bit in my leg and I got bit in the neck. And once you get bit, you've got 7 to 10 seconds to get out. So I had to back down slowly off the stairs because if you move too fast, you accelerate the heat and you're gonna get burnt. So I had to back off slowly, and then right off camera, we have a whole team of firefighters with CO2 to spray me down. So now flash forward to the fire scenes. When I break out of the gun cabinet. Everybody down there, the stunt guys are wearing firefighter suits. They've got oxygen. Everybody running camera and sound all have oxygen. I don't. I was there in the flames, breathing that smoke. It was like smoking 5 packs of cigarettes. I was in there fighting, and breathing the smoke. Then, when we do the scene where I walk through the house, once again, 2 Nomex suits, fire retardant gel. It was so hot that if I breathed in, I would have scarred my lungs and my throat. And if I'd opened my eyes, I would have burnt my eyes. So I had to count the steps from the back of the house to the door, and then count the steps from the door to the end of the porch, at which point I could breathe and open my eyes. So, very intense.
I just got wet once.
And he cried for weeks.
I cried for weeks.
I have a question for Nick Castle.
Yes, that's me.
To my understanding, you were the voice of Michael Myers, the breath, and I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind doing a demonstration for us.
Yes. This will cost each of you $60. Okay, we'll go for free. I'm going to do the breath. Well, actually, just to make sure you understand, in the last 3 movies, David Gordon Green, the director, called me up after I did my little cameos and said, Nick, in the first one especially, 2018, he said, Nick, I have this great idea. Would you go into post-production, look at the movie on the screen, and then do all the breathing for the character? And I went, oh, that is so cool. When you hear what he had to do, this is much easier. So I did. I did all the breathing for the character in all 3 films, and so I feel like, come on. That's really the most important thing. So here's the breathing. Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna give away some posters. We're gonna take a picture.
Actually, before they go to this, this is, I come from Los Angeles. We have a lot of great theaters in LA. I don't think I've seen anything quite as good as this man's work here in Detroit. This is an amazing theater. Your seats, the screen. You guys don't understand how amazing this is for you. So give a big hand to
Thank you, Nick. I will look forward to you, Nick.